first thing to say really is that Pinot Noir from Germany tends to be overlooked. Just look at the situation of how much Pinot Noir is planted in Germany. We are the third largest producer of Pinot Noir in the world. And if I say straight away that Germany has 3 times more Pinot Noir than New Zealand planted, and it has 3 times more Pinot Noir than Australia. And I think that comes as a little bit of a shock for many people. They're kind of not aware that Pinot Noir exists in Germany. And it exists in Germany since the 10th century. And we are in the very deep south of Germany here. We are not really that far from Burgundy. I mean, we're just, you know, on the other side of the Rhine from Alsace. And all 4 wines I'm going to show you today are from Baden. So when the grapes were spreading, when Pinot Noir was spreading, they were often spreading with monastic orders. It was the monasteries that sort of moved. And this really, at that time, was the same monasteries, the same groups of people who were going across borders which were not the borders that we know today. They were regional borders rather than national borders. We're going to look at 4, we've only got a short time, we're going to look at 4 different Pinot Noirs. The first of them comes from the Kaiserstuhl, that's on your tasting sheet, and that's really down in the deep south of Baden. Yes, please, yes. Okay. And it's a volcanic area. So you'll be going along, you've got the Black Forest, you've got the Rhine on one side as you're heading south down into Baden, you've got the Rhine on your right, you've got the Black Forest and the hills that lead you into the Black Forest on your left, and then all of a sudden you see the Kaiserstuhl, which is a kind of a group of small hills, really, volcanic hills. Quite impressive. And we're going to look at a wine from Winzerverein Oberrotweil. This is a cooperative cellar. They have, I think, 408 hectares in the Kaiserstuhl. The specialities are Pinot Gris and Pinot Noir. We're going to look at their Pinot Noir. This is just 5% of the wine has been in barrique, and the rest has had just 3 months in. The Germans use a lot foudre, large oak barrels which are of a certain age, so they're not giving a lot of oak flavours. They're more about the aging of the wine and the mellowing of the wine. So yes, help yourselves. So this wine, as I say, 5% barrique, the rest just a small period of time in hot fats, in foudre, and so you've got really essentially a young, fresh Pinot Noir with not a tremendous amount of influence from oak. Typical Pinot Noir colours. Always beware of people who are telling you that Pinot Noir should be dark and intense. Here's typical of the grape variety. And this tasting's not really about Pinot Noir in general, it's more specific than that, but for those of you who perhaps don't know Pinot Noir too well, what I tend to sort of get excited about is a Pinot Noir that has on the one side its real fruit character, which is strawberries and raspberries. So look for that in Pinot Noir, always look for that in Pinot Noir. But when you get excited about them, they've not just got that, they've also got savoury, vitamin B, gamey, juices running out of the meat. The more complicated you get in your wine, the more likely you will see this schizophrenic sort of, split personality kind of character. So let me taste this with you. Are you getting any of the Pinot Noir character on the nose? That's the first question. probably more savoury than fruit-led to me on the nose. Let's have a look on the palate. This is a good start to my tasting. This is showing you what young Pinot Noir tastes like. Not too much influence from oak, but a nice ripe climate. And this is what's going to surprise a lot of people. I think that Germany makes ripe Pinot Noir. This is ripe Pinot Noir. This is what we've got in our glass at the moment. Not too late to join in if you want to on this tasting. Do you want to join in? There's a...
Thank you very much.
Okay. And just to put it in context, this would be...
You said it's ripe, but then if you put some Burgundy, I would describe Burgundy as ripe. So
it's actually warmer than Burgundy. Yeah.
So
it is warmer. Yeah. Significantly, this is the warmest place, basically the warmest place in Germany. I mean, it tastes, it doesn't taste. It tastes between Burgundy and the New World, I think, in character. And we might come across that again, I think, with some of the other ones as well. Yeah, do feel free to ask questions. It's great that you do. So, just to put this into context, this would be a wine on sale in the UK at £10.99 a bottle. So, £10.99 recommended retail price in the UK. And it is already one or two people listing it, but it's the early days for it. One or two people already.
What sort of residual sugar would that have?
Sorry?
What sort of residual sugar would that have?
This has got 6.1 grams. Yeah, 6 grams. But then there's nothing, I don't think there's any reason that should be a problem for us, given that this is aiming at that kind of easy drinking, a glass of wine by itself, not necessarily demanding food. I think that's probably quite well balanced, I think. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to move up a step, and we actually have the winemaker of the next wine with us, so we'll be able to take more specific questions if needs be. But we're in Baden again, but we're a little bit further north in an area called Ortenau, known for its white wines and its Pinot Noirs. And we are a single estate here. The first wine was from a cooperative, as I said. This is from a single estate, Weingut von Franckenstein, and we're going to taste the single vineyard wine of his, the 2010 vintage. I have to say, I've been in the wine trade since the early 1980s, and probably like a lot of other people, I tended to regard Germany as a one-horse style, stylistically, and I would always have in my shop Mosel Riesling and Rheingau Riesling, and if they had a little bit of age and a little bit of bottle age, that was what I thought Germany was about. And it's only 3 years now that I was taken over for the first time to this region, and it's been a real eye-opener for me, and those of you who perhaps are in business, they do sell very well. People don't have a problem if you let them taste the wines, and it's actually much easier with red wines because, Pinot Noir is a well-known name, and you talk to them about German red wines, in this country, they have no preconceptions of what the wine is going to taste like, which I find kind of quite helpful to the ability to sell the wines. I'm just going to get a glass of this in my glass as well. Thank you. The occasion. Okay. Yeah. Just checking with Stefan Huschler, who is the winemaker at this estate. The wine has had 12 months in barrique, and there's no new barrique at all. He didn't want to use new barrique with it. It's second and third usage barrique, and it's French oak. 12 months. The vineyard is on granite, so it's a granite soil. Single vineyard site. You're getting a lot more complexity on the nose, and hopefully also a lot more Pinot Noir characteristics here. Really, really genuine Pinot Noir characteristics on the nose with this wine. And he's done a great job because he's not let that the use of new oak dominate the varietal, and it's very easy to do that. You know, you can drown Pinot Noir out, certainly on the nose, with too much new oak, and he's intentionally not done that with this wine. People sometimes say to me, how do you describe the aromas of Pinot Noir? And you just need to make sure that you drink enough Pinot Noir to know what Pinot Noir tastes like. And then the tasting term and the aroma term for it is actually Pinot Noir. I think that's the important thing, you know. There is nothing else in the world that has the aroma of Pinot Noir, and here it is in a good example.
I have two questions. One is, what is your reason and are you strict lines with one clone vineyard?
It's a German clone, but it depends on the Burgundy clones.
Multiple clones in the vineyard.
We use different clones like Pinot Noir.
And are you using native yeast or commercial yeast? What kind of yeast are you using, commercial yeast or native yeast?
Yeast, the
Natural yeast.
Natural yeast.
Yeah. This is the soil. The vineyard.
that's the granite soil from the vineyard where this wine is made. So that gives you a clue. Can I mention?
Because we are very late in the year to harvest the Pinot Noir middle end of October. But the first time we think, oh, it's not the best year.
Is that because of the weather?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because we were very late. In the spring we were late. Then the summer was not too hot. We have a lot of water, a lot of rain. And in September, October the weather got better and it was a very nice harvest for us. And 2010 was a year with a nice acidity. I think when you taste the Pinot Noir, and it was a perfect year for Pinot Noir. Too high sugar, nice acidity, and a very nice fruit.
And do you ever have to chaptalize in Baden or never? Is it just...
It depends on the weather.
Because you would.
We're allowed to
Over 10 years, how many times do you chaptalize?
You can chaptalize every year.
And would you? I mean, typically, would you chaptalize?
Normally we don't.
I'm gonna have to break back in. Stefan's on the stand, and obviously, you know, you can talk to him the rest of the day. Absolutely. But one thing I wanted to mention, which I think is a kind of really, really interesting thing, is that Germany, and this part of Germany in particular, has a very close link up with New Zealand. And what you find is that the students in Heilbronn or Weinsberg learning about wine and learning to be winemakers go off to do a vintage in New Zealand. And that would make sense, wouldn't it? Because, you know, they've got Riesling, they've got Pinot Noir, and vice versa. The other time of the year, I'll turn up in Württemberg or in Baden and I'll find New Zealand students, winemaking students, actually doing their studies and working a harvest in this area. So Stefan, for instance, worked in Martinborough in the area with a Baden gentleman who actually has a vineyard there. That's the name, yes. Who's actually also has an estate in Oberrotweil, the first village that we tried the wine from. So I'm not just saying this as a one-off. You'll find consistently that winemakers in this area have done a vintage in New Zealand and they've had New Zealand people working. So it's a kind of two-way sharing of information about cooler climate grape varieties and cooler climate wine production. You now have in your glass a wine from Baden again, from the Kraichgau. And I think I'd be fair in saying that 2009 was a slightly better vintage, a warmer vintage, a hotter vintage. Yeah. And we this time have a wine that's been 14 months in barrique. And there has been an element of new oak in this one. So that is a difference with the last wine. We're further north in Baden, in the Kraichgau sub-region. We're at an estate called Heitlinger, and this is a single vineyard, Königsbecher. I'm going to be quiet for a moment while you taste the wine. I think there's nothing worse than people talking while you're actually tasting. So just have a look at that and we'll discuss together what we think of it. Yeah, the 18.99 retail. 18.99 retail. The second wine was £18.99 retail.
Trade price was the hair from people.
Now we've got the complexity. Now we've got that gamey character of Pinot Noir on the nose here. But it's nice to see the two styles. It's nice to see the young Oberrotweil, lower price point, straightforward without the oak. But here you've got a tremendous site, a really top quality site, a good warm vintage, and you've got loads and loads of Pinot Noir flavours here. And they're not dominated by the oak. They're not, you really have not overdone the oak. It's the wine. The character of this grape is still shining through. You're forcing me to swallow the wine. Terrible. It's clay and malt. This is a tremendous producer. The wine's only just starting to be available in the UK. They have 32 hectares already in production, and they are replanting. They're planting at the moment some absolutely tremendous sites. One of them was with Pinot Noir. I'm trying to remember the name. There's a new plantation of Pinot Noir, isn't it? On the Heitlinger estate. Yeah. Wormsberg, isn't it? Wormsberg. Yeah, that's what flashed over. Wormsberg has been planted, not yet producing. So all I'm saying is they've got another 10 hectares of new plantations coming online, all planted in really tremendous south-facing, southwest-facing slopes. Well, we've got one. I mustn't keep you too long. We've got one more wine to taste. This wine you've just tried would be £23.50 a bottle. Can I just have a look? £23.50 retail. But you really do have to think that is real top-notch Pinot Noir. You know, you could compare that with anything you wanted to compare it with. I know we were at SIT, I shouldn't say this, but we were at the Specialist Importers Trade Tasting. And up in Manchester, everybody on the various stands towards the end of the afternoon, as it went quieter, they were saying, "What's the best wine you've tasted? What's the best?" And they got together about 5 or 6 wines from different places, and this was the wine that was voted, you know, not officially voted, but unofficially voted as the most stunning wine of that particular tasting. And it was up against some really top Burgundies. You won't find me talking down Burgundy. I mean, you know, I love Burgundy. All I'm saying is no one knows about these wines, and Germany makes, you know, a massive amount of Pinot Noir, and some of it is at this kind of level of quality. So, wine number 4. Hope I'm running fairly much to schedule. Quick glance at that. Yes, I think the tasting is due to finish now. So this is the last wine, and it's from the same cooperative that made the first wine today. So it's from the Kaiserstuhl, that volcanic region that I mentioned. It's made from the Blauer Spätburgunder, which they would say is their clone, their best clone of Pinot Noir. Blauer is indicating a kind of a slight blue, sort of blueness, a bit more colour perhaps in these Pinot Noir grapes than there is everywhere else. This is 4.3 grams residual sugar. It's 50% new barrique, so 50% is new barrique. There's no destemming, so what they're aiming to achieve here is a wine that could go forward, would have enough character and flavour to take the wine ahead and give it some longevity in bottle. Quite interestingly, for a cooperative seller, they have a Vinatech where they sell old vintages, and it's possible to go to Oberrotweil and buy the 1939 vintage of Pinot Noir. And you wouldn't have to necessarily go and see your bank manager before you went. It's not outrageously expensive. A dry Pinot Noir from the 1939 vintage. So this they call the Reserva. It's 14% in alcohol. And all the vineyards that supply grapes for this are over 20 years of age. So old vine, I suppose we're saying. Old vine, more than 20 years of age, and 50% new barrique.
I like this. I do like this.
Big flavour, a big mouthful of wine, a big mouthful in weight terms. I think probably a little bit more weight than the last wine, but perhaps not so complex, a little bit more, not one-dimensional, but a bit less dimensional than the Königsbecher. But a lovely wine as well. Same price, exactly the same price as the Königsbecher. This would retail at £23.50. I do thank you for your attention. I hope you found it useful. At 3 o'clock this afternoon I'm doing something very similar with a range of Rieslings, and that will actually include an ice wine at the end as well, so sometimes difficult to get a chance to taste ice wine. So if you are around, love to see any of you again, and you've got the programme for the other days as well. And I'm not sending you away. Come and chat to us now on the stand. I'm just finishing my my speeches, or whatever you would like to call it.
Thank you, James.
Thank you very much.